Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Rangers Reviews morning briefing. It is Wednesday, the 30th of October. Myself and Chris Jack, no Derek Clark this morning. You'll be disappointed to know, but we'll do our best to steer the ship through regardless, Chris. And we are here to talk about a big game. I will say at the start that we've already done a video last night reacting to the Rangers accounts, obviously the top line of that being a pretty alarming £17 million loss, despite the fact that there was record-breaking revenues. So if you want to get more accounts chat and hear Chris Jack explain all of that to you, then you can go back and watch last night's live stream. We're going to talk predominantly about tonight's game, Rangers against Aberdeen. The chance for Aberdeen to either go 9 points ahead of Rangers before Aberdeen, or for Philippe before Aberdeen, before Halloween. That rhymes, that's why I'm getting confused. Or for Philippe Clement to cut that gap to 3 points. This is a big game. I have been calling it the biggest non-Old Firm game in domestic competition Rangers have played in quite a few years. Am I being over the top, or do you agree with me? There feels like there's just so much riding on this tonight.
Talking about the accounts last night, talking about the football this morning, I really get all the fun jobs on here, don't I? I have struck it lucky with the accounts in Aberdeen double header. This is a huge game for Philippe Clement. Both he and Nadine Barami were asked at the press conference yesterday, the usual line of how big a game is this? Does it feel like a bigger game? And of course, they reply with, "Well, every game's a big game. Every game we want to win every game." The cliches don't really wash with the Rangers support right now. They are fully aware of the significance of this 90 minutes. As I say in the piece that I've got on the site this morning, Aberdeen are a real problem for Philippe Clement right now. Not just being 6 points behind Celtic at this stage is one thing. You're always going to be judged against Celtic. That is your barometer as a Rangers manager. But a lot of the points that Clement has made about new players in the building and taking time, a lot of them can be answered by you look at the job that has been done at Pittodrie. New manager, half a dozen new players, lost their best player in the summer. Now, again, as is in that piece, I think there's context to it. Perhaps an idea that Aberdeen are overperforming, and that as games go on, as the weeks and months go on, that might level out. I would still be surprised if they are serious title contenders over the course of the campaign. But if they were to go and beat Rangers tonight, you would have to say at this stage they've done a really, really impressive job. They've already done a really impressive job. But if they can add to coming back from 2 goals down at Parkhead with a win over Rangers, you have to give all credit to Aberdeen for the way that they've equipped themselves, and it would ask huge questions about the way that Rangers have equipped themselves.
Yeah, right. We're going to get into all the big talking points this morning, namely the fact that, as you say, Chris, Aberdeen have had this really impressive start, and that, I think, makes life difficult for Clement, who has been, I guess, pleading for patience to a degree. And we'll also get to our teams later, so if people want to send in the starting 11 they think should take to the field at Pittodrie tonight, they can do so in the comments, and we will try to get through some of those. We'll get through some comments first and foremost. Andy says he is very nervous about tonight, to be honest. Wick Warrior suggests it's a sliding doors moment. I totally agree with that. Donna echoing the sentiment just of the magnitude of this game. And James, a point we'll get into slightly later in the show when we discuss the teams, just reaffirming that it is a game that Rangers have to win. And I think the approach and all the optics that surround it matter a lot. You touched on a piece you have on the website this morning, Chris, which is an excellent read. And effectively, to summarise it for people who haven't read it or aren't subscribers and want to do so, it looks at the start that Jimmy Tellin has made at Aberdeen, which has been really impressive. They're level with Celtic, and it is almost November. They obviously got that 2-2 draw at Parkhead a couple of weeks ago. As you say, some of the underlying numbers suggest that they've slightly overperformed. So I've got it here that Aberdeen have scored 18 goals from 10.86 expected goals. So that's quite an overperformance. And they've conceded just 8 from 11.19 expected goals. By contrast, Rangers have scored 14 goals from 15.97 expected goals, while they have let in 6 goals from 7.8 expected goals. So Rangers slightly underperforming in front of goal and Aberdeen slightly overperforming. Those numbers don't include penalties. So there is, Chris, I guess, a bit of context, and Clement might point to that, and you touch upon that in the piece that, okay, maybe Aberdeen are in a bit of a high. But if Rangers don't manage to get a result tonight, no one will care about those underlying optics, will they? Because Aberdeen is still very much, I think, having watched them a little bit, merit where they are. Yes, they've had a little bit of luck. Yes, you could say that the run of fixtures has been more favourable. They didn't have European competition. They still have a new manager. They still lost their best player in the summer. They still had, while not the extent of the rebuild that Rangers underwent, still a significant change to their squad this summer. And I guess what you're touching upon in the piece this morning on the website is, yes, Aberdeen pose a problem to Rangers because on a points basis, they're ahead of them. They have the chance to go 9 points ahead before November, which is unthinkable from a Rangers point of view, given where they want to be. But as well as that, the fact that Tellon has started so quickly and got results in the first instance, while Rangers haven't really at the start of this season, that poses a bit of an optics problem for Clement heading up there tonight as well, doesn't it?
It's interesting. The manager mentioned in the first part of his press conference yesterday, he spoke a bit about perception and the perception of the start of the season, the perception of this team, and he clearly feels that the perception outside the building, to use his phrase, is different from what he sees inside the building. Clearly feels that things are perhaps rosier in the garden than a lot of fans and commentators like ourselves would say and would have people believe. I think it's a hard sell to the Rangers fans for him to try and put those points across, because ultimately the fans they are watching what he's watching. Okay, they don't see the team behind the scenes, they don't see how they're interacting in the changing room, they don't see that camaraderie, they don't see how the training sessions are going, but they have more than enough opportunities to judge players individually and collectively in the matches. And if you think back over the dozen, more than that actually, games that Rangers have played this season, how many really impressive individual and collective performances can you point to, and how many big wins can you point to? Not enough of them at this at this stage. It's fine saying this is a team for long term, that there is progression, that they will be better month on month, that they will be better year on year. You're at a club where the expectation is that you win today, and the fans want everything done and everything to be in place yesterday. You can't keep saying tomorrow. Eventually tomorrow comes and you have to deliver on that, and when it does, you then can't keep saying, well, actually I didn't mean that tomorrow, I meant the next tomorrow. Rangers need results in the here and now. I don't think either of us are overly optimistic about a title challenge this season, about Rangers going on and potentially actually having a proper crack at Celtic for the title. So falling 9 points behind Celtic at this stage of the season, you would imagine they pick up their victory tonight. Falling 9 points behind Celtic at this stage, in the grand scheme of things, is it actually going to make a difference come the end of the season? Probably not, because I don't expect Rangers to be champions anyway. If they fall 9 points behind Aberdeen, I mentioned them being a problem earlier on, that is a problem, because how do you then... It's one thing not beating Celtic. It's a very different situation to find yourself actually in a fight for second, and you can't give Aberdeen at this stage. Yes, it's only a quarter of the way through the season, as the manager referenced yesterday. Can't really be giving Aberdeen a 9 point head start on you. So yes, we believe that their form will perhaps tail off. They'll have injuries, they'll have suspensions, there will be all the different things that come into a campaign. They will drop points. I don't see them being able to maintain this form. But even if they could maintain it for another dozen games, that then leaves Rangers with a hell of a lot of work to do to try and claw that back. Especially when you look at Rangers' form and say, right, out of the next tranche of games in the next cycle, if you like, out of that 11, how many do you back Rangers to win? Certainly not 11 of them, unfortunately.
You'd be optimistic at this stage to do so. Some contrasting opinions in the comments, as ever, Chris. This is why we love the show, because we get to hear from everyone. King Charles Spaniel says Aberdeen had 2 shots against Celtic and 2 goals. Didn't have much possession in that game, and by all accounts, their keeper made a few good saves, but they also managed to come back from from 2 goals down, which is obviously something Rangers haven't managed to do in a long time at Celtic Park. Alex saying Aberdeen have won 6 fixtures by a single goal. I think Rangers have won 4 fixtures in the Scottish Premiership by a single goal. Could be wrong. They've had a kind run of fixtures and got lucky with some late winners. They also don't have European football to contend with. Rangers have nothing to fear if we show up, we win. So Alex is confident. And Ross getting in touch to say no Rangers manager should survive falling 9 points behind Aberdeen. Chris, I guess optics is a word we've said a few times already. And that's really important, isn't it? Because so far, if you take Rangers season, or even if we stretch it back to last season, when, the example we always go to, when they go to Kilmarnock, they remain top of the league that night, 18 from 20 in Clermont's 18 wins from Clermont's first 20 fixtures. Since that moment, they've been unable to build any momentum. After that Motherwell defeat at home, Rangers had a really bad March to May, but also at the start of this season, there's not really been a game, to my mind yet, or a run of games that have got people up for the Clermont project. And I guess that's what Jimmy Tellon has done. That there's probably an acknowledgement, yes, that Aberdeen aren't going to win every game this season. I think against Hearts, for example, they conceded a much higher expected goals than they created. Maybe at Celtic Park, I think Duke blocked one on the line late on. They also got slightly fortuitous. But you buy yourself that good fortune when you do get the results. And that's what, because, okay, Rangers maybe have had a more difficult fixture run, maybe they've had European football to contend with, they still, have had more than enough to perform better in a lot of games. The Kilmarnock game, for example, regardless of what starting 11 you had in that game, the performance I thought was really abject. And because of that, because Rangers haven't had the results, the performances, if you have the performances but not the results, you maybe buy yourself a bit more time because people can see what you're doing and can believe that will turn long term. If you have the results, though, then you're getting the points on the board, and that's ultimately what matters. So again, just to, I guess, reiterate that point, that is why it feels to me like so much rides on this game tonight. Because if Aberdeen, for example, were to go and put in a good performance and beat Rangers tonight, then the view from the outside is, here's a manager who's coming on a smaller budget, has had less time in the job, and is 9 points ahead. Whereas if Clermont is able to get a result tonight, and we're kind of talking, I realise, as if that's totally impossible. It's not. It shouldn't be by any means. If he's able to do that tonight, then maybe this can be the type of result that kicks him on and gives his project a bit of belief, gives his team a bit of belief. Do you go along with that one way or another, this night feels like it could really, really determine Rangers' season, really, domestically?
I think even if you take the Aberdeen situation out of it and you say you forget that they have put together this run of form, say in a different world, Rangers are just sitting in the gap between themselves and Celtic, and they're sitting second, and Aberdeen, as many people would have expected, are sitting third.
Yeah,
Rangers can't afford to fall 9 points behind or fall even further behind Celtic at this stage of the season, and you'll then be looking at this first cycle of Premiership games drawn at Tynecastle as a result that looked worse as the weeks went on, given how Hearts formed after that before their managerial change. So 2 points dropped there. An Old Firm defeat where Rangers were never in it, never leave a glove on Celtic, never got close to them. That's obviously going to carry huge damage for the manager and the players. You then fail a test at Kilmarnock. So if you then drop points at Pittodrie, another one of these big tests, another one of, as you said at the top of the show, another one of these games, these game marker games. Even if Aberdeen are not sitting second and you don't bother looking at a league table, there's still an awful lot of evidence thrown in the defeat to Dynamo Kiev and a tie that was there to be won. There's then a lot of evidence to suggest that Rangers are not in a good place, and the fans will see that. They will react to that. As you say, on the flip side, something that Barrie actually mentioned in his press conference yesterday, this could be one of these like foundation results. This could be one of these games where you get a big result, big performance, and you kick on from it. Downside to that is, my fear is, we've said that already this season. You thought,
and Chris, that was in that. Sorry to interrupt you, but that was a narrative before Kilmarnock, wasn't it? It was, and Rangers weren't able to, whatever barometer you want to use, get themselves up for that game. When that Kilmarnock game, I think carried. We were making very similar judgments about that Kilmarnock game before Rangers went to Rugby Park, because I think Celtic and Aberdeen had drawn the day before, hadn't they? So that presented an opportunity for, again, Rangers to shift the optics somewhat, and they were unable to do it at Rugby Park.
And we spoke, I think, after Malmo about that being the bar's being raised, the bar's being set. This is the performance that Rangers have to kick on from.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. Even last week in the European game, you get a good 4-0 win over Bucharest, and it's a case of, right, this is now the level. This is Rangers being more clinical, converting more of their chances, a better all-round team performance, and you then go and follow up with a fairly drab 90 minutes against St Mirren on Sunday. If they're then to follow that up again with another negative result against Aberdeen, then you can say, well, those two European ones, they don't become moments that Rangers can kick on from. They just become outliers in a season of really low-key, fairly poor performances. On the flip side of that, I say they could do something. They could do something special tonight. They could go and produce a result and performance, and it could be one of those moments. But I don't think that just seeing the comments and seeing the social media and speaking to people over the last wee while, doesn't seem to be much confidence amongst the Rangers fans heading into this one. I think that probably tells you all you need to know about the start of the campaign.
Yeah, people want to know who's calling you during a live broadcast, Chris.
It's not a virtuality call, so it's okay. Nobody has been sacked.
Well, always want the breaking news from you. A couple of good points from our esteemed listeners, which is no surprise. Scott Gervin says, will Aberdeen sit back? If not, we stand a better chance. We're usually better when teams come out to play. And Paul making a bit of a longer point, but along the same sentiment. When we press other teams, we control the game in Europe. We've done it. So why in the league do we not pressure the other team? That's a good point, Chris, because generally, if you could, it's not quite a black and white debate. If we turn it into a black and white debate, when teams don't press Rangers, when they sit off them, like Kilmarnock did to a degree, and when they ask them the question, can you set the tempo? Can you create a lot of high value opportunities? The answer is often no. In European competition, when the game, instead of being in a low block, when the game's in a mid block and there's space behind and the opposition pressure a little bit more, so you can play through a press as opposed to just trying to break a team down. Rangers generally look better. I think that's fair to say. I don't think many people would disagree with that. Could that be an advantage, therefore, if Aberdeen, Pittodrie tonight will have a big atmosphere? Aberdeen fans will, of course, be desperate to see their team continue this win and run and see their team remain or extend their leads ahead of Rangers heading into November. Could that play into Rangers' hands if Aberdeen are a little bit more aggressive and therefore it becomes a little bit more of an end-to-end game?
I think it could do, but only if Rangers would then have the quality to actually capitalise on that. Do they have? We've spoken a lot about the final third over the course of the campaign, and do they have enough goals? Do they have enough creativity in this side? I think we both agree that Tierney, I know it will come on to our teams. I think we both agree that Tierney will play. He's someone who is in good goal scoring form. Barrie mentioned that in his presser yesterday. He would like to add more goals and assists. There's then also the Dessers question in terms of what Cyril Dessers turns up and what he's able to do. So I think Rangers, you could find that Rangers are able to create more chances tonight. But do they have the quality? Do they have the composure in those big moments to actually take them? We talk about when teams come to Ibrox. I think St Mirren on Sunday was the ideal reference, if you like. If that chance from Olasanya goes in early on, the one that just goes by the far post, that takes the sting out of any atmosphere and creates a very different mood round about Ibrox. You mentioned the atmosphere at Pittodrie tonight. If Rangers can score early and score first, that then asks different questions of Aberdeen and then asks different questions of the fans, all of whom are going to be really confident, really buoyant, really looking forward to this. If Rangers can start well and do the basics right first and foremost, if they can show that they're not going to be outfought, show that they're going to be able to win their duels, as the manager calls it, create a couple of chances, and most importantly, actually take one of them. If they can do that early on, that puts a very different slant on the game. It asks different questions of Aberdeen, potentially questions that Aberdeen have not been asked already this season. So that's the opportunity that's there for Rangers. It's whether they have those. Do they have it in them in these big games? Do they have that type of performance in them, or are we going to be speaking in 13 hours or so, probably as I'm sitting in the gantry? Are we going to be talking about a performance and result that was more like Kilmarnock? If it's anywhere near Kilmarnock, Rangers aren't getting anything tonight. If it's a big step up, then all the positives, all the things that we've just discussed, to try and put a slightly more positive frame on it. If it's the complete opposite from Kilmarnock, the result should be as well.
Yeah, we'll get to our teams, and if people want to send in their teams, we'll read out some of those as well. But before we do that, Chris, let's talk about some of the maybe positive aspects or what Clement might be optimistic about individually heading into tonight's game. He in the second part of his press conference, he referenced the fact that it was when he was being asked about the St Mirren game, and he actually admitted that he'd had a specific meeting with the defence. You asked him about his decision he has at centre half tonight, but he had a specific meeting with the defence discussing the moments. I can't remember the exact phrase he used. You might be able to, Chris, but effectively saying St Mirren were able to create specific moments over and over again. So Clement met specifically with the defence to try and correct that, if you will. I'd imagine that was specifically into relation to when Robin Proper was getting turned. Obviously, Castle Weirjo came in and solidified that. But he also pushed back a little bit on the perception of the St Mirren game, and he said, look, if you take the game in midweek in the Europa League, because Rangers were clinical, the mood changes. So, Igaman scores that late goal, and Cherney obviously gets 2 goals. If the St Mirren goalkeeper doesn't make a fantastic save in the final minutes on Sunday, then Cherney gets another goal, and maybe 3-1, it's a little bit more comfortable. If Cyril Dessers manages to finish late on when he's sent through, is that a fourth? And what Clement was trying to say was we created similar moments in either game, but we were far more clinical in one compared to the other, which I think has some validity, Chris, although you're relying on players scoring maybe not the highest value chances all the time, even though I guess that Cherney one was a pretty good opportunity. What do you make of that? And then maybe in particular, Václav Cherney as well, who has 5 goals in 4 games, hasn't really shown up as well, I'd say, like away from home in the Scottish Premiership. I think he's better when he's moving infield, and often in these games like Kilmarnock, he can get stuck out in the wing and be a bit ineffective. But he's Rangers' real danger man going into this game tonight, isn't he, on the basis of form?
That quote just about the defence, he was asked, does the defence have to be better? And he said, yes, we talked about that. We showed images about that because it were the similar actions that they could do that we don't want to see. And it is also one of the strengths of Aberdeen. So we had a separate meeting with the defence about that. Went on to say that it's not a concern. There's no teams that go through games and don't concede chances. I think a lot of people will be looking at that centre half pairing with interest tonight to see which way he goes. And again, we talk about setting the tone. The 2 players that play in that area could really set the tone for Rangers. You would imagine, obviously, the best chance of Rangers winning the game tonight is by keeping a clean sheet. At the other end, Cherney, as you outlined there, he is a guy that's in good form. I thought the manager was really interested in part 2 of the presser, talking about the social media impact, and he also had that conversation with Cherney to come off Instagram after he came in for a bit of stick after the Lyon game. His return then since has been good. I think you look at the goals he scored recently, and they highlight what he's good at. They highlight what he can bring to the side, and you know that he does have those moments in him. He is capable of those type of finishes. Can he do it often enough? Last couple of games suggest yes. Can he do it over the course of months, over the course of a season? Obviously, time will tell. I know we were doing teams and we're previewing games over the last few weeks. A number of people saying Cherney can't play. There's no other viable option on that right hand side. It's really him or Ross McCausland. I think a lot of people would say that Cherney offers more now than McCausland. So for me, he's definitely going to play tonight. It's Barrie off the other side. It's Dessers through the middle. And as I touched on, it's do those 3. Do they have enough quality? Do they have what it takes in these big moments? Now the manager referenced there St Mirren game, and they created a number of chances, and it could have been if buts and maybes. You would be surprised if Rangers create the same number of chances at Aberdeen tonight. If you don't create the same number, that increases the pressure on you to maximise the ones that you do actually create.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right, Chris. Right, let's get to teams before we round up. I'll pull up yours first. Now, you were mentioning me before we came on air, Chris, that obviously we don't really differentiate between saying if these are the teams that we think we'd like to see Clermont pick or we think Clermont will pick. Or mine's in the middle. This is, I'm going to say, the team you would pick because it's an extremely flat midfield three. Um, talk me through it. I mean, I'd be surprised if Clermont changes tonight. I'd like to see more physical profiles in that team. I'd like to see someone like Dujon Sterling come in from the start. You're going with Cassim Weirjo and Balogun, the centre half pair, and that ended the game against St Mirren. Talk us through your 4-3-3 there.
I think we'll take the centre half position first. I think there was major red flags about Robin Propper's performance on Sunday. He didn't handle the physical challenge at all. Made a number of mistakes. I think as you touched on at the start of the week, it's not the first time that he's been removed. Obviously, then look back to the Killer game. I know there's an injury in play as well, but you could easily make the case for he didn't deserve to be on the pitch for those closing stages, whether there was a knock in there or not. Balogun gets the nod for me because there's this doubt over John Suter. Manager mentioned yesterday he's available, but can he get through 90 minutes? That generally means if Clermont says someone can't get through 90 minutes, very, very rarely does he then actually start them. I think you could all but rule Suter and Lawrence out just because of what he said yesterday. So Balogun therefore starts. I think Cassim Weirjo was decent at right back on Sunday. I thought Rangers looked better when he moved into centre half. I do like what he brings to the side. I think it's really interesting to see how he copes in this type of game. He has more of a physical profile about him than Robin Propper. So for me, that would be the two. Like you, I think we both like Dujon Sterling. Both like to see him in a Rangers side, but it's where does he actually fit in? It's not going to be at right back because we're fairly confident that James Tavernier is going to play. It can't be one of the more attacking roles because there's better options there. So that then leaves a midfield slot for him. I think Rangers, they have to have more control. They have to have more dominance in that midfield area. Barron and Raskin been good in the last couple of games. Raskin especially, he definitely deserves to start. Conor Barron, the manager, spoke about him yesterday, going back up to Pittodrie and handling all of the occasion, if you like, and he doesn't have any fears in that regard. Overall, he's a decent start to his Rangers career. He'll be really looking forward to this one, and I think he'll want to start. So it then comes down to, do you stick with the system and do you go with Diomande or Lawrence as 10, or do you go with someone like Sterling just to give you a bit more of a physical profile, a bit more legs, a bit more energy to give yourself a foothold in the game? That might not necessarily be the team that finishes the game or that wins the game, but I think that's the team that gives Rangers the best chance of getting themselves into the match. And you then maybe get to an hour or so, and you're then looking at Lawrence to come off and give you whatever he can, looking at Diomande to come in and give you something a bit different. And Sterling is probably the one that then makes way, but I think for me, he should be in with a shout for a start. But as you said before we started this segment, the team that we like to see and the team that we think the manager will play are very different things.
Yeah, no, I've kind of gone for a mixture in between before people shout at me, but this is the most realistic team I'm going for tonight. I'm not sure if Balogun will start. He started on Thursday night, didn't he, Chris? He did. I'm losing track of Rangers these days, but Cassim Weirjo hasn't played left centre back. However, I think he's looked pretty unflappable. I think it'd be a big call if Clermont started Propper over Cassim Weirjo, although Propper, I don't think he's had a bad couple of games. He's not as bad a player as people are making out, but he's had a couple of difficult games. Cassim Weirjo has had a good impact. I think it's as simple as play who's in form there, play someone who's a little bit more pace. He's played at left back. He's comfortable on the left side. He looks composed. John Suter, if he's fit, will most likely come back into that defence. I think he's the first pick at centre half. James Tavernier definitely comes back in. So that's the back four I'm going for. In midfield, I agree with you. If Dujon Sterling is fit, he should play somewhere in this Rangers team, although sometimes I think the system, as we've suggested, Chris, because that doesn't really change, that maybe doesn't leave as much as an obvious place for some players. I'd like to see Sterling in there. He only played 16 minutes, I think, or 15 minutes the weekend against St Mirren, although he was very bright. I'm not sure if Clement will throw him in from the start, given that he's missed about a month or so of football before that. Tom Lawrence, you're probably right in saying that he won't start if he was in contention to play and it wasn't quite decided up until yesterday. But I don't think Diomandi's been great at number 10, and typically, if you look at big European away games, Clement sticks with a number 10. I know Lawrence drops in and forms more of a 4-3-3, but I don't think he'll go for a more conservative midfield just because he hasn't done it so far. It'll definitely be Barami and Cherney, who, if they have space, I think can be decisive. Cyril Dessers is due a goal. And Barron and Raskin, I've got them the wrong way around. It should be Raskin on the left side and Barron on the right side there. Big day for Connor Barron going back to Aberdeen, and Nico Raskin, I think, is Rangers' forward midfielder at the moment. And Clement, I hope he can continue those good performances, because I think he's improved Rangers at the base of midfield. But we shall see. We'll be live before the game tonight, folks, and after to preview and react to what is a really significant game in the Scottish Premiership and the context of Rangers season. Until then, thank you to everyone for joining us. Thanks to Chris, who's away up to Aberdeen. Loads of coverage to come for you on the Rangers Review. Please, if you're not subscribed on YouTube and you watch this video, do subscribe and give us a thumbs up. Really helps us if you can do both of those things. And you can subscribe to the website as well by clicking in the description for all the best Rangers content daily. But until then, thank you for joining us. We'll speak to you tonight.